So I thought to myself, this cannot be right. I had my own oxygen meter in the room. So I put it on Grace's finger and it read 95%. So I called the nurse back in and I asked her if my finger meter was accurate. And she said, yes, it is. And so then I said, well, why is my $50 meter more accurate than your $50,000 machine? And she said, because the leads get sweaty. And I said, if you know this, why don't you proactively change out the leads every 3 or 4 hours or whatever it takes? Because this is the primary tool you're using to manage my daughter's care. And she snottily responded to me, pointed her finger at me, you should just be thankful you caught this. I thought, you got to be kidding me. So now we're wise to, they're falsifying the oxygen records to justify. So, what's the reason they would do this? And the reason they would do it is to justify a ventilator. The average amount the hospital makes when they can convince the patient or their advocate for a ventilator is $300,000. So they have an incentive to lower the oxygen numbers because the low oxygen then justifies the ventilator. They can make the oxygen numbers anything they want. On October 13th, at 6:02, her oxygen on the finger meter was at 93%. The hospital recorded the oxygen in the permanent records at 44%. It was a complete lie. The monitor was disconnected from Grace and they recorded it at 44% in the permanent records. That's just, this is what they do. This is corrupt. You can't make it up, it is that bad. On October 13th. So now at this point, they had already had Grace on Precedex, which is a sedation drug, for 4 full days. That's illegal by itself. That's the first cause of death. Precedex is only supposed to be used for 24 hours. The package insert for Precedex says it causes acute respiratory failure. Grace's first cause of death on her death certificate was acute respiratory failure. And that was a direct cause of having her on Precedex more than 24 hours. The 44 hours where we didn't have advocacy, they increased the dose of Precedex 7 different times. So Jessica's at least a little bit fearful of being kicked out. I was just kicked out 3 days earlier by an armed guard. So she goes home, takes a shower. She comes back, overhears the 2 doctors and this nurse in the hallway say the family's not going to like this. So she said, what are they going to like? We had to strap Grace down to the bed while you're gone. Well, what's the reason? Well, she wanted to get up and go to the bathroom. Now they use that as an excuse to increase the Precedex further. At 10:48 in the morning, she's at 14 times the original dose 4 days earlier. So now Jessica just thinks she's sleeping. We're not aware of any of this going on. There was no informed consent. Jessica just thinks Grace is sleeping. At 10:56, 8 minutes after the max Precedex, the doctor put the DNR order on Grace. At 11:25, they gave her lorazepam, which is an anti-anxiety med. 5:46, another dose of lorazepam. 3 minutes later, another dose. 6:15, morphine as an IV push. So in 29 minutes, she has Precedex, lorazepam, morphine. That combination would take anybody out. The package insert, the black box warning on the package insert for morphine says to not combine those drugs because they're contraindicated drugs that cause death. They're not supposed to do that. They're also supposed to have the reversal drug bedside and monitor the patient. After they gave Grace the morphine as an IV push, not a drip, at 6:15, not one nurse or doctor came in that room to monitor Grace. Jessica started feeling Grace get cold, and she went out and asked the ICU nurse to take a temp, and she would not come in the room. She just said, that's normal, cover her with a blanket. Jessica called Cindy and I on a FaceTime call at 7:20, panicking. She said, Dad, Grace's numbers are dropping like crazy. I said, get the nurses in. She said, they will not come in. I said, what do you mean? She said, I've been trying. So we start screaming, save our daughter. Jessica said there's at least 30 nurses in the hallway at this point because of the shift change. They would not come in. They holler back to us, she's DNR. This is the first we knew she's DNR. So we holler back, she's not DNR, save our daughter. They refused. That's another violation of every state statute, because if that's your oral override of, even if Grace would have put a DNR on herself, the fact that Cindy, being the medical power of attorney, said that overrides the DNR. They would not save her. They would not give her the reversal drug. So we watched her die on FaceTime at 7:27. Jessica ran out in the hallway during that 7-minute window, and the nurse read the DNR off the computer. He said, the doctor put this DNR in Grace and we can't do anything about it. There was an armed guard posted outside the room that wouldn't let the nurses come in the room to save her. One of the nurses had Grace's belongings on a cart, and she walked out next to Cindy and leaned down and said to Cindy, me and several nurses don't think Grace should have died today.